2026 Maryland football season preview. Mike Loxley, Malik Washington, Sidney Stewart, a lot of big names for Maryland this season. Can they get over the hump? Can they make a bowl game and cite a little bit more confidence into their coach Mike Loxley and get themselves another season with him? Here on the Big Ten Huddle presented by FanDuel, we're talking Maryland football going into 2026. Zach, this is a very intriguing season with a lot of different storylines for Maryland. They bring in Clint Trickett, the offensive coordinator, to design the offense around Malik Washington a little bit more. This feels like bowl or bust for Mike Loxley. Literally, I mean, sometimes when people say that, it's like, oh, it just won't happen. No, this is bowl or bust. If they do not make a bowl game, I do not see Mike Loxley returning to coach Maryland next season. On top of that, you have Malik Washington, who was a really good quarterback last season, and his numbers didn't always point that out, but he also had to throw the ball over 50 times a game sometimes. So that obviously did not make him the most efficient quarterback in the country. Zach, what are some storylines, some things you're looking at for this Maryland team as they go into the season?
Can Maryland win outside of September? And can Mike Loxley keep his job?
Can they win in September this year? I mean, you got Hampton at UConn, Virginia Tech, and UCLA. You don't have Oregon or Ohio State there in the first 4 weeks, but there's
tough.
really only one gimme there.
Yeah, I tend to think UConn won't be tough. They beat the Huskies 50-7 2 years ago, and the Huskies don't have Cam Edwards. Like, he's at Michigan State now. So if Maryland loses to UConn, I think is that maybe tarmac firing?
Maybe. I don't know. It would definitely not be good. They would not make a bowl game. I can guarantee you that if they lose to UConn.
Hampton would be tarmac firing.
Well,
that wouldn't even be tarmac firing because they're home. That's take them out to the 50-yard line and just say you're done.
We've packed your things and they're in your office in a box. Get them and go. Or you might not even get your things. You might just have to go.
Yeah, no. There's no getting your things if you lose to Hampton.
But that's not going to happen. That's not
Witness Protection Agency. That's what happens. Change your identity.
A lot of players back for Maryland this season, Zach. A lot of confidence that teams that people can have in the offense, especially the defense as well. There was a key defensive injury we'll talk about here in a little bit. But, Zach, let's start with the offense here. You have Malik Washington, DeJuan Williams, a completely new wide receiver room, some sneaky strength at the tight end position with Dorian Fleming having over 350 yards last season. And then a pretty complicated group at the offensive line. They did bring in a few guys returning. Ratrell Perry, I apologize, but he was also a transfer. So some interesting stuff here to see what's going to happen with the Terps this season. Zach, what position group are you most confident in on the offense?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential across the board. Like the offensive line, you mentioned Perry. They bring in Lockett from Texas State, and he has a lot of starts under his belt. 17 starts at Texas State, 14 at ULM. So, like, he's very experienced. He's a big guy. Michael Hershey anchors that line. I don't know if I can say offensive line, though. And so I'm like, maybe quarterback. Like, I think Malik Washington's inconsistent, but if he continues to progress, he will be the best player on the field, at least on offense.
Yeah, it's pretty easy quarterback for me. Malik Washington was probably the breakout quarterback of the season last year. Everybody knew Julian Sain was going to be good. Everybody knew Dante Moore was going to be good. Not a ton of people, I think, expected Malik Washington to be better than Bryce Underwood, and he was, even though he did struggle with consistency. But like I said, that also happens when you're having to throw the ball over 50 times a game in a season. That just no true freshman is going to find consistency doing that. So I feel good about the quarterback position. Malik Washington, definitely like that Clint Trickett is coming in and trying to specialize the offense a little bit more for him. I'm going to go back to what I go back to. It seems like almost every year for Maryland, it's either run blocking or running back. And so this year, I'm going to choose running back. You got Dewan Williams. He could be pretty good for you. He's got some interesting stuff to him that I think could make him a pretty good back in the Big Ten. He's not going to be Antoine Raymond or anybody like that, nor does Maryland need him to be. But they do need solid, competent play out of the running back position. We'll see if Williams can give it to him or not. But overall, I'm going to say my least confident is the running back room.
I'm just going to say the run game in general. I mean, you look at the running backs last year. I think their top three running backs, Dewan Williams, Nolan Ray, who's no longer with the team, I think he graduated, and Iverson Howard, combined, they could not get over 1,000 yards. Combined.
Mm-hmm.
And like the best of the bunch in terms of average per carry was Nolan Ray at 4.3. Williams could not average over 4 yards a carry. He's at 3.9. Iverson Howard 3.2. And it's not just the backs, it is the run blocking. Like that has got to get better. Because to your point, Malik Washington is good. He's not going to be effective if he is throwing as much as he is. I mean, just to give people an understanding, Malik Washington threw 473 passes in 12 games last year. That is almost 40 throws a game for a true freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that again.
Sometimes that's what you have to do, and that's kind of what got Mike Loxley in this position a little bit. So, looking over at the defense, Zach, most confident, least confident. I'll let you go first this time. What group are you most confident in the defense?
I think the cornerbacks. I think the cornerbacks are a strength. Amari Jackson, Jamari Glasker. I think both of those guys can be really, really talented. I would have said defensive line or a pass rush, but Zahir Mathis is going to be out for the season. And that's just a devastating, devastating blow. So I will go with the corners. I think they're going to be tough.
Amari Jackson's coming off a pretty major injury. I want to see him out there before I express a bunch of confidence in him. I'll just go with the safeties as my least confident group because of Jalen Husky and Dante Joyner both being gone. Those are two better players. So I'm not going to go the entire secondary because I do think that there's talent there in the cornerback room, albeit a pretty thin cornerback room. But I'll go ahead and say the safeties there is my least confident. But then I'll turn around the other way since you gave your most confident. I'll say my most confident. So linebackers, I don't think there's really much debate here. Yeah, you can go with the edge rushers because of Sidney Stewart and Zion Ely, but the loss of Zahir Mathis was pretty much what made me go to the linebackers. Daniel Wingate, he's a legitimate centerpiece to this team. Maryland returns virtually everyone behind him in the best combination of production, experience, depth, and continuity on this team, in the entire team, not just the defense, is the linebacker position. So I'm going to go with them.
I think that is a good pick. I think least confident. I think the interior. I am concerned about their ability to stop the run, and I think that is the typical struggle with Maryland is do they have the run? Do they have the ability to run block, and do they have the ability to stop the run? And typically, if they overperform, it's because they actually have the ability to run the ball a bit and stop the run, or at least limit the run. That's my biggest concern for this defense.
I can see that. They completely rebuilt the middle of that defensive line. They did get the Parker brothers from Washington, which I think some people were excited about that pickup. I did not necessarily love them at Washington. It sounded like when Illinois was going after them, they were maybe asking for some more money than maybe some teams were willing to go after them for. But also Illinois is being really cheap with the defensive line this offseason, so that's not saying much for them. But all right, let's move on to schedule here, Zach. Let's look at the schedule for Maryland and kind of what the thought process is here. As we noted at the beginning of the episode, The September, it looks a little bit more difficult for Maryland than what we've seen in the past. Yes, Hampton and at UConn. UConn should be an easy team, but still at UConn. Then you get Virginia Tech at home, UCLA. This schedule has some toughness to it. Ohio State, USC, Penn State, but you also dodge Oregon, Indiana, Michigan, Iowa, Washington. There's definitely some games here that I'm looking at. I'm just saying, yep, you're not going to win those, Maryland. But I am looking at the schedule and saying 6-6 is probably more possible than maybe some people realize.
Yeah, I think 6-6 is possible. I might even go a step further and say if Loxley's coaching hires hit and players take next steps, I think you could see 7-5. Like that, you get UCLA at home, you get Virginia Tech at home, you get Rutgers at home, Illinois at home, Wisconsin at home. You go to Purdue, like that's actually a game I think you want to be on the road because I think Maryland, from a talent perspective at least, is better than Purdue. I think maybe substantially better. To me, the issue is not talent, even with Zahir Mathis out. To me, the issue is coaching. It has been coaching. It will always be coaching as long as Mike Loxley is there. Because Mike Loxley can put together a roster pretty good.
Good recruiter.
Like, yeah, he's a very good, especially for what Maryland has been. But so I think the ceiling could be 7-5. I think the floor. I mean, you were talking about concerns about UConn. I don't think they will. I don't think they'll lose to UConn, but like they do have to go on the road. Like, is it possible that 1-11 is their floor?
I mean, if they have to fire Mike Loxley, yeah, because then you just have that second half of the schedule there after your bye week, and you're just basically floundering after that if you fire Loxley. I I would say 2-10 would be much more gracious, I guess. My floor is going to be 3 and
We're
9.
not about grace on this show. What are you talking? Sorry, never mind. We're just not gracious to Kent State. Sorry.
I'm going to go with my floor is 3 and 9. I think they're going to get Hampton. They very likely are going to get UConn, but it just gives me a little bit of pause that it's at UConn. And then you do have some of the winnable games here at home. Illinois is a game you get at home. Wisconsin you get at home. You go at Purdue, which is not the worst place to go in the world. And then you get Rutgers. Zach, I really have this Rutgers game circled on here because I really do feel like that game is kind of the biggest decider game of the season. You're very likely going to be 3 and 1 coming out of the first 4 weeks, maybe 2 and 2, worst case scenario. 4 and 0 is not impossible, but I think 3 and 1 is probably your most likely there. Then you get at Nebraska, at Ohio State. If you're 3 and 1, you're going to be 3 and 3. If you're 3 and 3 and you lose to Rutgers going into the bye week, I think Mike Loxley's done after that. But if you're 4 and 2, and then you play Rutgers, and then you win, then you're 5 and 2, or you win, and then you're 4 and 3. I think Mike Loxley makes it a little bit further, and he's got some games that he can win with Illinois, at Purdue, and Wisconsin before they end it with at USC and then Penn State.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that, and actually it might be the decider game both for Maryland and Rutgers, in terms of who goes bowling, which is not abnormal for these two teams. Like
No.
Maryland and Rutgers, they came into the Big Ten together, and it seems like they are forever tied together, at least since they've come into the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your official? I mean, we're giving official picks later on, but like as of now, where would you have them in terms of win total?
My ceiling for them is a 7 and 5. So win total wise, I don't think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. I think either Maryland is going to accomplish it and be 6 and 6 and 7 and 5, or they're going to be really far down there and be 2 and 10, 3 and 9, somewhere in that range. I don't see this team doing better than 7 wins. There's just I don't. It's possible you go 4-0 at the beginning. I just don't think it's likely. And then you have Rutgers, Illinois, at Purdue, Wisconsin. I don't think you're going to get all of those wins, but you can maybe get 2, maybe 3 of those wins as well. And then they might get Nebraska. I might be giving Nebraska too much credit here, but I just think at Nebraska, that's going to be a really difficult one to get.
Yeah.
So if I had to give a record prediction, I will go with 6-6.
This might be the hardest pick to date for this season for me, because I really don't trust in Maryland.
Yeah.
And this has been the truth. This has been the struggle with Maryland for years, is that you have legitimate dudes on this team where you're like, there are going to be some games where Maryland has 2 or 3 of the best players on the field at any position, and it's not going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say 5-7.
All right. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say I think they might go 2-2 or 3-1 in the first 4 games, and I just don't trust the track record. I think once you get to October 3rd, I think you start to see a free fall. I think they might pick up a win or 2, but I just think I think they might get to 3 wins by September, and then maybe get 2 more, and that's it.
If they go 2-2 in those first 4 games, Loxley's fired. Maybe not maybe not like after those first 4 weeks, but the season's not going to be good enough to keep him hired for that one. We are just barely different on it, Zach. Maryland has a win total of 5.5 on FanDuel. I had them 6-6. You had them 5-7. FanDuel does agree with you though. They're favored to go under by -142.
Yeah.
So we'll see. All right. Any other thoughts or final thoughts here for Maryland?
I kind of hope. We joke about firing Mike Loxley. I never actually want someone to be fired, unless if it's for cause, right? What happened with Sharon Moore, that needed to happen. I like Mike Loxley as a person. Like, I think he's done a lot for that program that people don't know about. We had Larry from the Maryland Sports Network on our show a couple times. He's really pounded the table for him. But if they cannot make a bowl with this roster, he needs to go. Like, it's time. I think he's been here as he was an interim head coach back in 2015. Mike Loxley, I think, has been at Maryland for 12 years overall. And he has not done enough.
Mike Loxley will probably end up like Tom Allen a little bit if he gets fired. He'll go somewhere and be a good offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Like Tom Allen went somewhere to be a good defensive coordinator.
Yeah. He's a really good, he's a good dude, and he deserves to be in coaching. He just should not be the head coach.
Well, we will see. Join us this year for the season, following us along as we talk Maryland football and all the other Big Ten teams Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be recapping the week, and then Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to be previewing the week. Did you have something else you wanted to say, Zach?
I didn't say, just to fact check myself, he's been the head coach at Maryland since 2019. He was the interim coach in 2015 after being the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach from 2012 to 2015. So just want to, before people jump on me by saying, you don't know what you're talking about, fact check.
They've already commented.
Yeah, that's probably true.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening and watching. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.